I'm Leigh Brown. Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, we're going to do a little bit of political nerd work with Representative Brian Biggs from right here in North Carolina. We're going to talk about squatting. So enjoy this conversation, get your notepad ready, and I'll see you on the other side. So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
So you're a realtor. I'm assuming you don't just do a podcast. You are a realtor. Is that right?
I am. And so I'm in my office in Concord, and I have a small independent company, and I've been doing this for 24 years. So this is my bread and butter. And of course, playing in the politics side is a natural thing. People don't realize how much politics is in real estate because real estate's not exciting when it comes to policy until we have something that is a big, nasty issue. But of course, that turns into a different kind of conversation. So now that we're kicking off our conversation, Representative Brian Biggs, why don't you tell my audience who you are, where you're located, what you do in and around the world of real estate? Give them a little quick insight on who you are.
Okay, I am Representative Brian Biggs. I am 23 years in. I'm right behind you. Started in 2001, right before 9/11. So, I've seen the ups and the downs. I knew at 9/11, my broker in charge came to me and she said, hey, if you can make it now, you're doing good. You'll make it forever. And she told me that at 9/11 because people don't realize when that happened, I mean, everything stopped. People stopped buying. People were terrified. They were waiting on the next catastrophe. And I went through that and had a few good years. And then I went through the Great Recession there, 2007, 8. And, we had a small development for me at the time, but it was a big development for me at the time, 15 houses, and we're getting ready to do it. And all of a sudden things just go downhill and the developer says, hey, we're walking away. And people started walking away from their industry and started walking away, filing bankruptcy. So I've been through a lot with real estate, and, I went through 2020, well, really started in 2016, 2017, things really took off, and I got to be a part of that. And I told people, I said, in all my years, now 23 years of real estate, I said, those were the best years. Opportunity was there. And, obviously that's my day job. My part-time job, they say part-time, is I serve in the North Carolina General Assembly. And, one of my passions is, obviously real estate, and we're down there fighting for the rights of homeowners and property owners everywhere. And people say, well, you're just fighting for real estate. No, we're trying to protect property rights for individuals and for landlords. And I think that's something what we're going to talk about today, that people are taking advantage of laws or the lack thereof laws to, circumvent the process. And, we're trying to make sure that our landlords, our homeowners, our property owners in general are protected in their rights.
So before we talk about our main ticket for today, I want to dig on what you just said there for a second, because it is a little frustrating when there is a policy issue going on around homeownership, landlords, tenants, anything that's going on. And when the realtors bring it up, the first response we get back is, y'all just want to protect your commissions. And they act like everything we do is about the next sign in the yard, when we know as voters, members of our community, as people who run small businesses, that we are so often working for people that we will never represent. We just want to make sure that there's a level playing field. Were you surprised by that when you got to Raleigh, that you being a realtor was less than? Because I guarantee you're not considered on the same level as a lawyer.
Well,
they get to know you, of course, but at first.
Yeah, well, thankfully we have great leadership, and we really, they find out where your strengths are. I was serving public office. I served for 8 years on the Randolph County Board of Education, and I had coached football and high school football the last 6 years before that, and 16 years coaching football. So I had a lot of background in education, and real estate. And, thank God our leadership, they try to put the best players on the field and they try to listen to you if you have a knowledge of what's going on. But you get back to like commissions and everything, put all that aside. If we don't protect homeowners and their property rights, we have nothing. So we're out there trying to fight for them. There is no property to sell if we don't put value in home ownership. And what a lot of people try to do, they try to devalue home ownership. They even get into price fixing. I do believe in capitalism. I believe in doing things the right way. What we try to do as in Raleigh, I say I'm trying to lower your taxes, which in turn, promotes more businesses to come in, make more opportunities. And thank God North Carolina is in top 3 states in the continental United States where people are coming because we are doing the things like lowering your taxes, protecting property rights. They do, just like one of our big companies that came when Toyota battery plant came. They came and invested billions of dollars because they know that North Carolina is going to take care of them. And we're trying to do the best we can in General Assembly to keep promoting that.
And then, of course, when Toyota invests that much money and brings in that many jobs, it's fantastic, but it creates a wild housing shortage. And we just finished a housing study on the 22 counties that surround that mega site region. If you're from outside North Carolina, if you look up the Interstate 85 corridor and you go about halfway between Charlotte and Raleigh, you'll encounter what we call the mega site, and it's Toyota, it's Boom Sonic, and it's so many other companies coming in. But when you have that many jobs, there is going to be real pressure on housing, which of course drives up the cost, which is hard for the natives who are already here. Now they're competing with out-of-state buyers coming in, and we want to welcome somebody coming in from California and help them make North Carolina theirs. But it creates a really big tension point. And when you talk about taxes, you guys in Raleigh have done an amazing job of getting our tax rate down as a state. Where our clients are getting challenged now is that because of the growth and because North Carolina is amazing, values have gone up. And so local property taxes are going up with many of these counties that are experiencing growth. So what are you seeing? I mean, obviously your job is state level now, but what are you seeing in Randolph County as far as the conversation around what do we do from a property tax standpoint? Because I can get concerned, and I'm sure you do too, the old people who have fixed incomes, maybe paid off their house, they don't have an extra $800 a year because the taxes went up, because the value went up. Is there any talk about relief for senior citizens, relief for people? What are we talking about? Is there anything proposed?
Well, I know. I'm sure it's county by county, but in Randolph County, if you are a senior citizen, you can apply for relief, and they're very, very forthcoming about doing that. We're looking at things as far as veterans and what we can do more for them, retired law enforcement. Same time, you're trying to keep the budget good. We do operate in a surplus, unlike the federal government. We actually balance our books, but, yeah. So, and some of it is, so and I know Randolph County, we have awesome industry. Obviously we got Toyota now. We got great schools, great community, and we were a big secret. And what was happening is a lot of people were living in Randolph and they were working in Guilford and Forsyth, and they were just commuting, and they realized, hey, I've got this great community. And so we've experienced price hikes, but really more, I think, of an adjustment because people's realized, hey, I want to live here. Not only can I live here now, I can work here with the jobs and things that are coming in. So what I'm hoping at the federal level, and we're hearing this, and I know when it's election time, people, they go out and try to lower the gas prices and they try to talk about interest rate cuts. But what we had before, when we had lower interest rates, the prices were high, but with the interest rates down, people still could afford their monthly payment. And now what we have is we have high prices with high interest rates to compound the problem. And I'm hoping the federal government sees that, because real estate fuels the economy. Real estate, I think we're the front runners, and you need to make it where people, I had a home the other day, 500,000. Time they got done with their 7% interest rate, I think they were going to pay like 975,000 over 30 years. and people just can't stomach that. So we need to look at rates. We're going to have this inflation, which hopefully we're going to get down more. But these prices are up, and I don't think they're coming down in some instances. I think we kind of it's a correction that probably was inevitable to happen, but these interest rates have to come down to make home ownership. People worry about their monthly payment, money in, money out. And we got to correct that, and hopefully, and that'll have to happen at the federal level. But, we're advocating for that. I know our local realtors, our North Carolina Association of Realtors are strong, and our federal, national is strong also. So we're making strides.
I got to say, I think you're the first person who's been on this show in the 9 years I've been doing it who talked about the full amortized expense of a house, because realtors are so trained to say it's a $500,000 house, and then here's your payment. And then they don't think about the 30-year cost, because most people stay in a house 30 years. So for those of y'all doing the math at home, if you remember when you bought your house, you got this amortization schedule that showed how you were paying down your principal month by month, and you didn't look at it because it was too many numbers, and so you initialed it and rolled on. You should always take a look at it, because it's like your credit cards. There's a cost to only sticking with the minimum over time, and it can really make your stomach hurt until you realize that you got to find the ways to work through it and minimize that interest cost over time. So I love that you brought that up, because that's so rare. All right, so let's talk about these issues around real estate. When we talk about an election year, of course, people go to the hot button items that make people get mad on the internet. Real estate topics don't usually generate clicks and taps and little angry people on TikTok. But right now, we do have an issue that is very emotional and very frustrating to deal with, and that is the situation around squatters. And so before we talk the legislative side, I'd love for you to tell your personal experience with what's happening in squatting, if you would, sir.
Yeah. So I've actually had 3 cases, not pretty recently. And so it's real. People see it on the national news and they say, well, that's not here. That's not here. But like you and I working every day in the industry, we had last year, developer of mine, he's developed small tracts, 6, 7, 10 acres at the time. They'll go in and put, 3 or 4 houses at the time. They're not tract builders. And, we bought a section of land. We're getting ready to put 4 houses on it. And there was already one house that we were going to, tear down. It was tear down, and we bought it. We go out there, and a couple months later, we're doing all our due diligence, getting our soil scientists out there, getting it surveyed, doing all our stuff. And all of a sudden, we ride by one morning, and there's a car there. There's a dog on the front porch. There's people living in the house. And first time we sent law enforcement by and said, hey, somebody has broken into our house. And their answer was, it was an estate that we had bought it from. And they found out about it because people do their homework now. They said, oh, we got a lifetime right to stay here. And I knew that wasn't true because I had known the owner for many, many years, and his sons had actually allowed me to sell it afterwards. And I knew the property, I knew the owners, I knew the sons, knew them all. And they actually, here's where they messed up. They said, well, it was my grandpa. And I knew that wasn't true because he didn't have any grandkids. And so we got there, and I was talking to the sons. But the situation is they moved a dog in, basically took the boards. It was boarded up, took the boards off the windows, and moved in and told the law enforcement that we have a lifetime right. And so now the law enforcement, now they're in a conundrum. I mean, they're like, what do we do here? But we showed proof. Thank God, my sheriff and my district attorney, they see it what it is. It's breaking and entering, and and they evicted them. But that was one case. When I was on the school board, one of our assistant superintendents, and that's something that this new law will cover too. If you're renting or leasing property without proper ownership, it's going to be a Class C felony now. And what was going on, and I'm sure you've heard cases of this. This happened in our school board meeting one night. We walk in, and one of our assistant superintendents, he just somebody had sent him a link and said, your house is on Craigslist for rent right now. And so right before the school board meeting, he calls up and he said, I see you got a house here for rent on the internet. And the gentleman on the other end, yeah, you want to come see it and get a deposit? If you come up, basically trying to get in his wallet, give a deposit, we can hold it for you. And then, my superintendent goes telling, I own this house. Click. I mean, they click and they remove the ad immediately, but it's happening. It's happening with that. And, people, like I said, people are taking advantage of situations. I got one more, had a lady, wonderful lady. We do property management as well as sales and HOAs. And we had a lady that had passed away, had went to a nursing home, and she had passed away. It was one of our tenants. Well, we went there after she had passed away. We're going to do everything, do all the cleanup and everything. And there is an entire family that has moved in, and they said, "We're not moving out. This was our grandma's. We have no way of knowing it, and it's grandmother's house. We're not moving out." I said, "We don't have a lease with you. You guys are welcome to apply with the application. We'll talk about it. You got to do a deposit, blah, blah, blah. You can't operate under her deposit because we got to look at and do an analysis." They in turn said, "No, we're not doing that. And we're not paying you any rent." And basically I had to go to the magistrate at that time. And I said, "Well, how do we handle this?" Well, they said, so they were operating there again without a lease under, false pretenses, basically breaking and entering at the same time because they were not a tenant. They'd never been, I'd never seen them. We'd rented it this way like 6 or 7 times, 6 or 7 years. We went there and we had to actually evict the lady that had passed away. We had to go to court and evict her in order for the sheriff to come and evict these people and lock the door. In the meantime, they destroyed the house, emptied all the contents of the refrigerators and all the freezers in the floor, left them. So now we got a rodent problem. They destroyed the house. And these bills that we're doing too really put some teeth into that too when people are destroying houses. So that's 3 instances that I've had. That's just, you can't make it up. And then when my builder, when those people had unboarded that first scenario I told you, I mean, they're on me as a realtor. Hey, you sold me this. You told me nobody was here and we're ready to tear it down. And now it's your fault, Brian. You need to fix it. So yeah, it puts a lot of stress on realtors too, because now you feel, your client saying, "Hey, you better fix this." So yeah.
I mean, what's astonishing to me is that this is a conversation at all. When we first started hearing about it and Florida kind of slam dunked their legislation, this is going to stop, and then Georgia followed fairly quickly, you kind of think, oh, well, this is obvious. This is not partisan. It should be every single state says criminal trespass is not okay.
That's
and
right.
I guess from my viewpoint, not as somebody who has to negotiate legislation, why has it been so contentious getting this across the finish line? I mean, I know you can only answer for North Carolina, but all over the country, it's not their house. Why are they allowed to move in and stay? Where's the disconnect, Brian? I just don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I think that what we went back to in our earlier conversation that you and I have been having, it's the value of home ownership, the value of property rights. And a lot of people are trying to devalue this and tell you don't own your home. You don't own that property. You don't have the right to tell somebody to leave from your property, whether it's trespassing or whatnot. And I think it goes back to that. It's a way of, some people today trying to, just like what they've had in Los Angeles, where people is camping out and are taking over property and destroying property. It's not their property. They do not own it, but people are not enforcing the laws. And I understand people are going through hard times, and we have to make sure that we can meet those needs and help those people. We talked about the elderly. We talked about the military people. We do not want to leave those people stranded or leave them without. But at the same time, we have to put value on property owners' property, their rights as individuals. And right now we're trying to take those rights away. And we're saying a person, a male or female that is breaking in your home may have more rights than you do to your own property. And that's wrong. It's not common sense. And we just got to get back to common sense.
So, what does the proposed legislation look like? And has there been that ultimate holy grail of bipartisan agreement on it? What are we looking at from a logistics standpoint?
There's been some bipartisan there. There's always people that worry about you know, overstepping. And I think with anybody, we want to make sure, the main thing is big part of it is 48-hour removal. The sheriffs, if they verified a complaint, is satisfied that someone is breaking and entering, they need to be 48 hours removed. In my situation, one time that I had where somebody had broke into a home, I mean, and it's been sheriff by sheriff, I guess, how they're going to enforce it, or law enforcement by law enforcement. I mean, my sheriff, if you break in a house, you're getting arrested. Okay. So, but different counties are different. But right now, if you have filed a complaint, and with this current law, if you filed a complaint, you got 48 hours, the sheriff's department does to remove them. And then, like I said, if you're renting or leasing a property without lawful ownership, it's going to be a Class C felony. So that's where it comes back to the Craigslist thing. And then they're ramping up the one that if you damage rental property at $1,000 or more, it's a Class H felony. So they're putting some teeth into it. If you're going to tear up people's property, you're going to mess up things. You're going to rent property without a valid lease, without our contracts. And there's been a big discussion about that. That's a whole nother discussion. We know as realtors, it needs to be in writing. If it's not writing, it's not worth anything. But the other side, a lot of times, are trying to operate on oral agreements. We cannot operate on oral agreements if it's not in writing. But there was some pushback in the General Assembly about oral agreements. Well, I said, well, they're not doing things correctly because it's not going to hold up in court. I can tell you when you go before the magistrate, and I'm sure you may or may not have been, but I've been there evicting tenants. You better have that lease in writing. You better have the terms, and you better know what you're talking about. Because if you come in, he said, she said, it's going to be a problem in court.
Well, that's why I hire property managers, because I do not have patience to deal with people who tell lies in front of the magistrate, because I know it happens. All right. So my question for you is, why do we have to give a criminal trespasser 48 hours? Because I can tell you from all my years in the business, there is an enormous amount of damage that can happen to a house in 48 hours. I mean, to the point where, well, we all have this one time in real estate. Well, this one time in real estate, the man and his sons were getting evicted because it was a foreclosure situation. They were up against the time clock, and to punish the bank, they decided to relieve themselves in every one of the registers of the house so that the ductwork would be fragrant, and it was disgusting and awful. And if the sheriff had had the ability to run them off right away, we wouldn't have had that extra several $1,000 damage to the house because this man was mad. And that's actually got some legal backing as to why you get a foreclosure person out in a time frame. But I don't get it. This is criminal trespass. Why do we have to give them even 5 minutes?
Well, the original bill, and so we had two kind of companion bills run. The original bill was 24 hours, but went to 48. You said a lot. To answer your first question there, like I said, in my situation in Randolph County, I feel like you may feel that way too, but I feel like I've got
Van Shaw in Cabarrus County. Van loves to enforce the law. That's his joy.
Yeah, that's me. I got my sheriff and my district attorney. They are like, you better get out. You just breaking and enter. We see it. And, which I probably shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. When I was there the last time somebody had broke into one of our properties, the guy said, I got 30 days. And the sheriff said, you ain't got 30 seconds. You just broke in here. He said, I can arrest you right now. And he took down their information. He said, if you ever break into this property again, we're going to arrest you. And the only reason he didn't arrest them is because the homeowner said, I don't want to press charges. I just want them to leave. The property was boarded up and padlocked. And, it didn't, they were being kind. But but at the same time, Sheriff's Association, they are concerned with, and I don't think this is a problem usually, but they're concerned with bad actors saying that basically trying to evict someone that does have a lease that does have proper documentation. And I guess the 24 hours, what we was initially trying to do, and that's what I'm still advocating for. We ended up on 48. It's not done yet. So it passed through the House. It's in the Senate. So to probably get some amendments there. That does let the Sheriff's Association do their due diligence, give them 1 day or 2 days to make sure, okay, the landlord's telling the truth. And this is what it is, just to give them cover, because they don't want to unlawfully evict someone. I've not heard of that, but that was the scenario they gave. And I understand the Sheriff's Association's pushback. They're like, we're outside, unbiased. We got one saying this, one saying that. Let us at least look at the paperwork before we evict someone. So that was where that came from.
And I appreciate due process. I think it's one of the foundations of what makes this country run correctly. By the same token, we are seeing these scenarios. And of course, the one that was big in the news was either New York or New Jersey. And I'm pretty sure that guy has moved now, but he had gone on his snowbird journey to Florida and was gone for a couple of months while he was gone from the house he occupies all the time. So it was not an investment property run by a landlord. It was an owner occupied. That's when the squatters moved in and dug in their heels, and he was not allowed to go back in his house. So when I look at that 48-hour period, I'm thinking about my clients, because I do have some people here. They even go to the beach at December, January, North Carolina, wait till all the Ohio people have gone back to Ohio, and then they go to the beach house and relax, and they come back. Well, as an agent now, I get to tell them, look, make sure that your neighbors know all your details. They know which lights are on and not, so that if somebody sneaks up in there, we can do something. So is there a provision for an owner-occupied house that is squatted upon while they're just out of town for more than a few days?
No, not at the current form. Like I said, the initial bill, which was the one that was, initially touted by the Realtor Association, was 966. It did have 24 hours in it. And I get it. Totally. I get it. And that's what I said. It's not me, but different ones has tried to devalue property home ownership. They're saying, oh, you don't own that. Everybody owns that. Well, everybody doesn't own that. You paid for it. You sweated for it. Your family owned it. You developed it. You farmed it when people were putting tents up out on property. We have a problem in commercial property in nearby High Point, where I live at here in Archdale, Trinity. But in High Point, they've had to tear down many wooded sites in the city limits because they've turned into tent cities. So then they have to destroy all the vegetation and all the trees because there's so many people living in the woods there, and you don't own it. So I think it's just the 24 hours is what I would like to see. We landed on 48, but let's see what happens in the Senate. It's in Senate rules right now. It passed through the House. We did get some bipartisan support on the bill. It was still, a lot of people vetting. I don't think the detractors, for the most part, had bad intentions. They were mainly worried about, and I guess the one you're talking about right now, illegally evicting rightful tenants. And they were worried about how that was going to be, when we start getting into without a lease, and at least allowing people to come up with the paperwork. So I don't know, like if you were renting a home and maybe someone knocks on your door and they're trying to evict you, and maybe you're not there, maybe the tenant's at the beach, maybe the tenant's here or there, at least give them an opportunity to provide documentation. I guess that's where that comes in. But there's no perfect answer. You want people to do the right thing, the golden rule, but that don't happen. But thank God for sheriffs like yours and mine and district attorneys that they're all about enforcing the law when you're breaking and entering, because that's what it basically comes down to. These are people that are in a property without written consent or lease. That's what we got going on. They're basically breaking and entering.
And I will say, for those of y'all that are watching and listening and you're thinking about your friend who's a tenant, this is right here why everything is supposed to be in writing, just like Brian said. And if you're renting from a friend and you think a handshake is sufficient, you should always know we do not live in a handshake world anymore. You need a lease agreement in writing. And if they won't provide one, you may have a shifty landlord. And if you're a landlord, you should want to provide that so that you have protections in the event of something going sideways. I will say, too, I've heard part of the pushback has come from the short-term rental community, the Airbnb community. And I'm curious as to if that's a big part of the challenge we're seeing here. I don't see a lot of Airbnbs here in Cabarrus County. We're just not really a vacation hotspot, but I have heard that as relates to this bill. Any feedback on that?
Not a whole lot. It was mostly what I got was the really the magistrate, the sheriff's association, realtors. That's been most of our collaboration back and forth, and a lot of our big property management companies. But Airbnb, not as much. But I can see where that'd be a problem, because all of a sudden they're trying to evict people coming in and out, and that could be a real bad problem all of a sudden, because a lot of folks with these vacation rentals like you're talking about, that is how they pay for them. I mean, they literally, it's an income for them, but all of a sudden, it can be a major debt that they could not overcome. And, so that is not really though with Airbnb. I haven't heard a lot with them. We met with a lot of stakeholders. I think it will pass. Obviously it's probably going to be next session. We may come back a time or two this year. Just depends on what comes up. We're still in negotiations about a budget that we didn't get, but we're looking at those
every year.
Yeah. But this one here, we're still in negotiations. But I think it's definitely going to be something that comes up next year. It's on one of the bullet points, if you will, for the North Carolina Realtor Association. It's something they're pushing for, and like I said, we're trying to protect property owners and landlords, and this bill does do that. It gives a path in writing. There's too much ambiguous, the current language there we're operating under, and it basically gives us some guidelines, statute changes.
So let me ask you a question that will apply to our listeners in other states. If a realtor or a consumer wants to support what their representative or their senator is doing in their state capital, what is the best way for you to get support from the public when they say, I want to see a squatters bill? Is it for them to call or email their representative's office and provide an anecdote, a real life story of how this affected them? Is it to show up at their office? Give them some best advice on how to support legislation they want to support.
Well, to start with, I mean, if you're a realtor, donate to RPAC. They're strong lobbyists, or they really have a big voice in Raleigh. We've talked about some of the lobbyists there. I won't mention their names right now, but they really work every day to protect homeownership and protect realtor rights. I would obviously you can call, email work. Definitely you want to look at your General Assembly and email the whole group of us, in there, and let us know what your thoughts are. Yes, share those stories, because if you apply enough pressure, I tell people you don't have to be elected to get something done. If you have enough people email, enough letters come in, people will pay attention. And that's what's happening with us today, not just in North Carolina, but nationally. Homeowners and landlords have said, hey, we've got a problem here. And when we see the problem, then we try to find a way to fix the problem. And it's, the process, it takes time. It should take time. We amend bills, PCS bills, and it should, because when you're putting something in writing, it needs to be fair to all people and all sides. And we're turning it into law. And so it takes a little time. We got through it here. I think we filed it last April. Was the first time, I think, when it started coming out, about April or May of last year. I don't have it right in front of me. But we should, I think we'll get something done next year on it. It's something that needs to be done. But yeah, email. I mean, you're welcome to call. A lot of times it's hard to get a hold of a representative directly. If I'm in the office, I will pick up. But when we're there, usually we're having meetings. And sometimes it's, believe it or not, it's hard for us to even eat lunch. You just grab a snack and keep on walking to the next meeting, committee meeting, and or meeting with the Realtor Association, Sheriff's Association. You're meeting with them because all these bills affect North Carolinians, and they're out working hard for you, especially our RPAC and our Realtor Association.
Although we know that some legislators don't eat a snack, they go down to the cafeteria and fuss about fried squash and types of ketchup. And we won't name any names, but we know who you are. And here's what I was writing down. Did y'all catch what he said? It says you don't have to be elected to get something done, and that is by Representative Brian Biggs. And I love that as the best example ever for how realtors can use their real life experience to help protect our communities, and especially those we have never served and may never serve, because you might be the only voice that would reach out to an elected official and say, hey, I have some input on this particular bill or that bill. So, Brian, also to answer one more question for me, if you would. When the squatter situation raised its ugly little trespassing head, I believe there were 4 different bills that got filed from both sides of the legislative building. What is the process for 4 different texts coming together? Is that a let's all go have a cup of coffee together and mix and match, or is it a negotiation in committee? What's the layout and the process of that? Is there one?
Yeah, there's a process. Yeah. Yeah. My bill's better. That's what we need to go with. That's what usually happens.
I think that sounds fair.
That's what happens a lot of times. So there was a bill, House Bill 966 and House Bill 984. Super, super similar. Very little language difference there in it. And it really just depends a lot of times on the process. As far as I can only speak to the House side, how it gets through committee. Sometimes people can get things in committee sooner than later. And, basically we all have the same goal. We want good legislation passed, whether it's our bill or the bill beside it. And we want to make it the best we can. So we want to get it through committee as fast as possible, get the amendments, hear everyone's ideas, because that's where the bills really get ironed out, is in committee. I'm a big proponent of having them in committee, letting people go around the table, whether it's J1 or finance or whatever, when it's got money involved, and get everybody's ideas, because everybody comes from a different background. You got builders, you got lawyers, you got doctors, and they see things from a different point of view. And usually what happens, we play nice, for the most part, and whichever one really gets through the committee and gets, PCS into the right bill, that's usually the one we go with. And, we had 2 great bills in the House, and very similar, and it ended up, trying to look here so I can find that. 984 ended up passing over to the Senate. It's currently in the rules. Like I said, and hopefully next year they can take that back up and we can do something with it.
So if you have any final words of wisdom for consumers or realtors, no matter where they are in the country, coming from your viewpoint as an independent contractor working in real estate and a legislator who is paid pennies for the thousands of hours that you've put in. First of all, we thank you for serving in capacity, because it's y'all don't understand. North Carolina does not compensate our legislators correctly for the amount of time that they spend, but here you are doing it anyway. What's your one piece of advice or one thing you wish people understood about your role in either capacity?
Well, to start with, don't hesitate to reach out. We listen. First phone call I have every day with my assistant, is what emails have come in, what phone calls come in, what can we do for our constituents? And we have people calling from different districts. And, we obviously everybody has their own constituents. We put them first, but that's our first conversation every morning. What do we got? Who's emailed? Let's go through the emails, whether I'm in the office or not. If I'm in the real estate office, I'm still going through my emails with my legislative assistant, and he's in Raleigh, and we're working on that every day. And so, don't hesitate to reach out. We will try. If we can't do it, sometimes we can't do things at the state level. We have the contacts at the federal level to make sure we do that. I think one of the things that big topic conversation we had today, get it in writing, get everything in writing. It doesn't matter if it's your best friend, your mama, your dad. And that's why we do real estate offers of purchase. And we know even if they pass away, this person here still has the right to purchase that property. And we do that. We got all these scenarios, but I remember I sold my best friend my golf cart one time. And when I sold it to him before he went to the beach, I said, here, I gave him a little bill of sale, got him to sign it. And at the time I did feel a little weird. Hey, he's really tight. I said, hey, sign this bill of sale. That way I'll have this and I'll know what it is. And thank God, he goes to Ocean Lakes, and lo and behold, they steal his golf cart. Somebody steals his golf cart, and he had nothing on it other than I had a bill of sale there with the VIN number and everything on it. So you never know when you're going to need it. You need it in writing. Make sure you're doing the right thing. Obviously, if you're not out marketing property and trying to rent or sell property without a written agreement, you're not going to be in any trouble. But and make sure that you talk to a professional. I am advocating for realtors now, but and I know you said 24 years you've been in, 23 years I've been in. I don't mind helping you. I have so many people call me after the fact. I've messed up. What can I do? Can you help me? Can you help me now? And I'm thinking, really could have helped you if you'd have called me a week ago before you did some signed contract with some company that says we're going to steal your house from you for nothing. And I had one of those at church the other day, and he said, what can I do? I said, you need to call an attorney. I said, because now you're talking to me as an attorney, and I'm not an attorney. And I said, you need to call an attorney. And so don't try to be too cheap to work with your realtors. A lot of times, just like you said, we do a lot of stuff for free and don't mind doing it for free, and we'll help you. Come to a professional first, and stay with that, and stay with the golden rule. Do unto others that you've had them do unto you, and I think everything will be great.
I love that. That is some excellent life and business advice as we wrap up. I am so grateful for you for carving out a little time for the viewers and listeners here, especially those in North Carolina. But for those of y'all in other states, just pretend that your representatives have a Southern accent and that they are listening to your needs, because there's guaranteed somebody in your legislature that needs to get some of this input. And you so graciously shared that with us. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
And I'll just copy Brian and Sky now and say, thank you for doing politics better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can do that too. They'll appreciate it.
I do enjoy
one of them
the
just had a
show.
birthday.
Very good.
Yeah,
Who had
they
a
did.
birthday? Brian?
I think it was Brian just had a birthday. Yeah, I think he just had a birthday. So, yeah.
So
He's
there's
a neat guy.
if you're in North Carolina, there is a Do Politics Better podcast, and it's run by Brian and Sky, and it's wonderful. And
Yeah.
they talk to legislators all over the place, lobbyists, different stakeholders, to help you get a feel for the ways things can work better. Because if you would turn off some of the nastiness online, you'd find out a lot of good work is still happening in all of our states. And it's because of people like you. So thank you so much. If y'all got something to say about Brian, say it in the comments. Make sure you hit the bell to subscribe. And most importantly, come back and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available in all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.